Maybe because it's not on. Good evening, everyone. I would like to call to order this regular meeting of the Cumberland Fire Committee, August 22nd, 2017. Let me first begin with the roll call. Commissioner Jones? Here. Commissioner Santoro is excused. Commissioner Archambault? Here. Commissioner Hogan? Here. Commissioner Champagne? Here. Commissioner Scullin? Here. And Solicitor Morris is also present, as is Chairperson Millette. Can we please stand for a moment of silence? And tonight, we hold in our thoughts Captain Jack White of North Attleboro Fire Department, who succumbed to occupational cancer last Friday, and Cranston firefighter and Rhode Island State Association of Firefighters President Frank Montanaro, Sr., who passed away today. Would you please keep those in your thoughts? Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Losing Captain White really calls to mind how important it is for our firefighters to stay healthy, and how important we as a fire district must keep that in the forefront of the decisions that we make, that not only are we protecting the citizens of Cumberland, but we're also protecting the firefighters who protect the citizens. So let us, as a fire committee, please make sure that in our decisions that we're making for these firefighters, that we understand that they are putting their lives at risk, whether they're fighting fires or not. So I just want to acknowledge that. We have a nice opportunity here this evening to congratulate some firefighters who have done some very noble deeds, and I would like to call Chief Finley to begin this acknowledgement.
Detail. Madam Chair and Commissioners, it's with great honor that we get a chance to pay recognition to firefighters that were successful in retaining and resuscitating and retaining a citizen of Cumberland under some remarkable conditions that usually don't happen in the town. They were able to persevere. As I will read the report that initiated this ceremony this evening, and then I will have the chairwoman join me to present the award bars to the recipients. As the senior officer on scene, I would like to recognize the members who responded to incident number 2017-2413, Cumberland Engine 4, Cumberland Engine 5, and Lincoln Rescue 2. Were called for a possible stroke located at 2894 Mendon Road. The call coming in on July 3rd, 2017 at 21:39 hours was immediately following the Cumberland 4th of July fireworks celebration. There was heavy traffic on Mendon Road, aggravating the situation of response. And Lincoln Rescue 2 was responding from the Lonsdale station in the lower section of Lincoln. Engine 4 arrived on scene to find the 70-year-old female in cardiac arrest. They began cardiopulmonary resuscitation and defibrillation per Rhode Island EMS protocols. Lieutenant Comtois notified Cumberland Control of a Code 99 and requested Engine 5 to the scene. Firefighter Grenier and I were at the fireworks detail and responded after being cleared by the fireworks personnel. Upon arrival, firefighter Grenier offered to assist Rescue 2 by allowing access to the scene while I went to the back of the house. As I entered the home, I saw Engine 4 Lieutenant Jason Comtois maintaining an airway, firefighter Tyler Cookson analyzing the monitor, firefighter Frank Zabata performing compressions. Engine 5 Lieutenant Bernardo was interviewing the family, firefighter Robert O'Neill was recording times, and Captain James Bodley was attempting IV access. The scene was calm and professional as Lieutenant Comtois was in command as Senior EMT Cardiac. Offering my assistance, Lieutenant Comtois asked me to take over the airway so he could perform advanced life support measures. The CPR was continuous and effective as I read the monitor and assessed the patient. After the second defibrillation, the monitor stated no shocks were advised and checked for a pulse. A carotid pulse was found and a moan came from within the mask. It was at this point Lincoln Rescue 2 arrived on scene. It was reported to me that the patient was talking in the back of the rescue during transport. These are the events that we train for on a daily basis. This was a successful event. I can say the person has survived and was at the rehab hospital, unable to make it this evening. But these gentlemen are going to be awarded the life-saving bar for their actions. So, Madam Chair. So, first two, I'll just go down with you.
All right.
First award goes to Deputy Nick Anderson.
Thank you very much.
Captain James Bosley. Lieutenant Brian Bernardo. Lieutenant Jason Comtois. Firefighter Gary Grenier. Firefighter Frank Zabata. Rescue medic Mike Gleason. Medic Mike Shirt left. And firefighter Tyler Cookson. Robert O'Neill was unable to make it this evening. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Go ahead. Madam Chair and members of the Commission, it is also my great pleasure to introduce probationary firefighter John Ray IV. Please step forward, John, to the center. John Ray IV is a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps, having defended our country in Iraq and Afghanistan. John is a graduate of Lincoln High School and from Lincoln High entered the military service. Tonight, having successfully completed the Rhode Island Fire Academy Municipal Firefighter Class 002, I am pleased to present probationary firefighter John Ray for initiation to the Cumberland Fire Department. Pinning his badge will be his wife Megan and daughter Ava. If you could please join us.
Very good. I am pleased, can you hear me? Yes. I am pleased to give you the oath of office, John. So if you will repeat after me, I,
John Ray,
do solemnly swear that I will be true and faithful to the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will be true and faithful to the Constitution of the United States of America
and of the State of Rhode Island,
and of the State of Rhode Island,
and support the laws and Constitution thereof,
and support the laws and Constitution thereof,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of probationary firefighter with the Cumberland Fire Department until I am legally discharged from there. Okay, congratulations.
Thank you, ma'am.
John, on behalf of the Fire Committee, welcome to the Cumberland Fire Department. We look forward to years and years and years of service. Thank you.
Did you want to do a 5-minute recess?
Yes. Yes. At this moment, if we could do a 5-minute recess, I'm sure families would like to get together with their loved ones, have pictures taken. So we'll resume by this clock, we'll resume at 7:25. Should we shut the door? Not that we don't want them in here, anyone in here, but they can come in and sit and listen to our lovely meeting.
Yeah.
All right. Ooh, yikes. All right, moving along on our agenda. I'm going to sit over here. I would like to go right to the consent agenda, approval of the minutes from 7/25/2017. Is there a motion on the...
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Scullin. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Archibald.
I'm abstaining, Madam Chair.
You are abstaining.
I'm abstaining. I'm not present at that meeting.
Okay. Is there a discussion on the table? No discussion, hence let's go to a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes from 7/25/2017, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Okay. All right. Communications. Anything? Review and discuss Cumberland Fire District bylaws draft. Okay, so it seems like we have a number of concerns, not concerns, but comments about the bylaws. And if we go page by page, I think that we will be here for 3 weeks. So what I'm suggesting we do is if we could write all of our comments down and send them to Kelly And then at the next meeting, and then we can all look at those comments, and in the next meeting, we can address those specific comments. Does that make sense?
Motion to table.
Well, can I just say one thing?
Yes.
Sure, I will withdraw my table.
Thank you. I just want to be clear. I thought that you wanted me to kind of make changes where clearly, like that full-time thing that we just talked about, and then maybe do options of, if I can, just give me a little latitude so that it's easier for you guys. That's all I'm saying, rather than just combining comments and sending them out.
Right.
And then, again, before you table, I just want everybody to know that a couple of members had asked me to add in capital improvement subcommittee. So I've given you a sheet on that. I think some of the members felt that it was important, and I do not disagree, to kind of keep a rolling understanding of what you need for capital improvements in the timeline, how much it's going to cost. Oh, sorry. All this time. And how much it's going to cost. And so I've given you that. And then the other thing that I think Diane and I had talked about is, this has bothered me for a while, where the chief comes in with like a truck repair that's already been done, and you guys are approving it, which you should approve it. But the chief really should have the authority to be calling these guys and saying, we need a truck repair in the next few days, and we can't meet with the board before that. So I'm suggesting that you have a list of approved vendors that the chief is authorized to go to, because in theory, he could come to you one night and say, I want to pay this $7,000 bill, and you could say no, and then what? So almost approving in advance by the chief kind of providing what they do, typical services provided, their labor rates, their surcharge rates, something like that, where you could just have this list, and that tells the world that the chief has the authority to do this. I think that's important. It's up to you, but it's just something to think about.
Commissioner?
I agree with the capital improvement subcommittee, because it's going to be very busy with the station at 116 in Mendon as the chief progresses. We're in contact with the architect, so I think that's a real important addition, to have that committee in place so that we don't lose any steps.
I agree with you, Commissioner Jones, and since you are chairperson of that subcommittee.
Archie is, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good thing to add. As far as the authorizing the chief, I mean, he already does it anyways. The truck needs to be fixed. It's got to be fixed.
Yeah, the only thing I'm saying is that in theory, and I'm not talking about this board, but in the future, it's possible. I mean, we want the chief to be authorized to be doing this. So why is he even coming back to you? I'm suggesting that he does a report to you every month saying these were the repairs that were made and these were the costs that were incurred. It's, you know, it's been working okay so far, but you know, I'm the lawyer. I have to look at the worst case scenario, and I'd hate to put the chief in a position where he needs to, you know, have a repair done that costs $10,000, and 4 people on the board say that was too much. I'm not approving that. And then what? So I just think about it. It's not just about these 7 members.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or concern?
Would you put a dollar amount on that list of vendors?
You could. I mean, we could, it can be they can. So if you come to them with a list of vendors and say, you know, I don't, like, it's almost like your budget. I don't think it's going to cost more than $50,000 for Ralco. And if it does, then you come back and you get a new approval. But it just gives you, it protects you, really.
I understand. I was just asking,
Yeah.
Should there be a dollar amount
It could
attached?
be. I mean, they can, you know, this board can do, I just said to,
Yeah, but if you put a dollar amount on it, then you got to budget it, right?
yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's gonna be
Well,
coming out of the budget, the equipment.
The thing is,
repair
he's-
line item anyway.
The problem with that is if you put a dollar amount, the chief's gonna say, well, now it's August, it's July 29th, and there's not a meeting till August, and it's over this amount, so that truck just stays at the garage waiting to be fixed.
See, I look at this,
When I said a dollar amount, instead of the 2,500 that we have now set in stone, would the authorized vendors be up to, we'll say, a $10,000 expenditure before I would have to come back for
well,
approval?
maybe, but I've seen 12,000 recently, and would you want to wait for that truck? This is what I'm concerned about. In theory, you should be waiting to come to a meeting once a month to get approval before you actually fix the truck. You can't do that.
Well,
This is to protect you and the vendors, and just by saying, and by the way, you're getting a report every month, so if this board doesn't like what's going on, and obviously you've had no problem with this for the last, 2 years plus, but if you see that the costs for one particular vendor are escalating, then maybe you take them off the list. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying, it tells the world that you are authorized to go to this approved vendor and not worry about whether or not after the fact the board's going to deny payment. That's my point. It's just,
Well, my point is, if we put a number of $10,000, and it comes into $10,005, the
Right.
chief can't do nothing till the next 25 days when we have a meeting.
Yep.
In the meantime, that piece of apparatus is out of service. We're not talking about fixing a personal car. We're talking about emergency apparatus vehicles.
yeah.
I think, knowing the chief for so many years, and knowing how he does budgets and how he's prudent, that if he thought it was ridiculous, he wouldn't have it done. But to say, well, we're gonna put a limit of 10,000, and it comes in at $10,050, that truck is out of service now for the next 29 days.
Yeah, and I was not suggesting putting on a limit. I think that if you're looking at these costs every month, you're going to be okay with it until and unless a vendor starts charging too much. And then you say, maybe, Chief, maybe you should go look at another couple vendors and see if you can get a better price. That's all I'm saying. I don't really think you need a limit. That's a personal opinion, that's not a legal opinion, but,
I really think that we have the confidence in the chief. I mean, it doesn't take much. Chief, how much was an alternator or a starter on the Pierce? We had one not done too long ago, correct? 3,200 for the, was it an alternator?
The alternator was 3,200.
3,200.
Yeah.
But before you know it, you're at $5,000.
The
Then if you have
starter,
some
the
other
starter
maintenance-
was like 900.
Yeah. But I think we have enough confidence in the chief.
And the approval list, chief, is what, 5 or 6 people that we deal with anyways?
Correct,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's only a handful that can even touch what we have, so.
right, exactly.
Basically, because they've proved themselves to be
Right.
prudent for the district.
Commissioner Jones?
Clarify, I think what you're looking for is a cutoff number, because you know how get nickel and dimed on a truck when it comes to decision time to say, should be looking to replace, especially an older engine? Is that what you meant? Like, at some point, you would come to the board and say, here's what the repair cost is gonna be. Is it time to look on for a new piece of that, a new replacement piece, especially in an older truck?
That's a very pertinent point that I hadn't thought of, but I can see your thought process in that, you know, an older truck is going to have a different set of values for repairs than a newer truck. And we're going to be facing that shortly, I believe, with Truck 5. Not I believe, I know we're going to be facing it shortly with Truck 5. You know, I brought it up just for clarification in my thought process. And I can understand the board's feeling, and we will have between the finance director and myself, we'll have a pertinent proposal for you.
So, just so I can clarify everything, so what I'm hearing you say is that it would be, in terms of protection, to identify a list of vendors that you would go to for truck repairs. And you would have all the information about who they were and what they can do, as the solicitor indicated in this. But I would not recommend, and it sounds like the board approves, to put a dollar amount on it.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
This is approval in advance. That's all it is.
Okay.
Instead of approving after the fact,
Yep.
you're approving before the fact, period. It's just to protect you, the vendors, and, you know, and it's not just about this chief. We all think this chief is doing a fabulous job. We think Diane's doing a fabulous job. But it's about just doing the right thing. And, you know, what if he goes to a vendor and they say, we're not touching this thing until you get approval? Well, guess what? You're on the list, you know?
Right. Okay. Great.
That really answers, you would have the option when you say, well, you're going to make a decision here, it's a major repair, you would hold off and come to the board anyway. So you wouldn't, like, you know the gig better than any one of us as far as the value of repairs. I'm not questioning that part, I'm just saying that, do you need backup to say, I'm not allowed to go? Or do you feel that at a certain point you'd come back to the board and say, you know, this it's going to cost this and the replacement would be this? For instance, especially like in a smaller, like a brush truck or something, where you might be better off to replace.
I understand.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Great, thank you. All right. Now, Commissioner Scully.
Motion to table.
Thank you very much. Motion made by Commissioner Scull and seconded by Commissioner Hogan to table the bylaws.
Not necessary.
I don't think so. Do you?
No, as long as we get all the concerns, like Ronnie had some, and Paul Santoro sent some, if we could put them in a group under that article, and then we can decide. So we're not amending votes over and over, it'll be all night,
Right. So if I could ask that any notes, today is the 22nd, we are meeting again on the 19th. If we could have those notes in by the 11th of September?
I would say at least 2 weeks before, or 2 weeks before, not at least, but
Okay, so by the 5th of September? If you,
that would be great.
if we could get the solicitor our comments by the 5th of September. And
You know what, why don't you, because it is Labor Day weekend, why don't you say
The 8th of September?
8th, yeah,
Okay,
the 8th.
by Friday, the 8th of September. If we could get those comments to the solicitor by that time,
Send them directly to you, Kelly?
send them directly to her.
So everyone have email address, we'll make sure.
we'll make sure. Can you make sure that they have my email address? Diane? Just,
Yep. Okay. All right, so there is a motion on the table. Is there a discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to a vote. All in favor of tabling the bylaws draft, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Okay, so new business, finance reports. Ms. Carol Ocean?
July is the month I worry about the least. We have the most money, and we haven't spent much of it. But we've collected about 55% of taxes so far. We're aggressively going after the balances due on 2016, people that made one payment and no more. So, but it's going well. I don't have a lot to report. I was on vacation last week, and I'm filling in for Pam right now, so I haven't had a lot of time to catch up, but this is usually our best month.
Okay.
So,
Is 55% around the average that you normally are collecting at this point in time, or is it lower or greater? Of course, we don't know, because it's only...
quarterlies, yeah, it
only the
was
second year we're doing
probably
it.
about this last year,
Last year.
I would have to say. The auditors have been in, they've done their field work, we've provided them with invoices, with deposit slips, copies of everything, bank statements, and so they're back at their office now working. They probably won't be back in again, but it gets easier and easier every year. There's less and less for them to have to look through.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for?
Yes, Madam
Director?
Chair.
Commissioner Scullin.
Last month, it was announced to us that we had a shortfall in the overtime, and we were supposed to get some kind of breakdown of the overtime accounts.
What exactly, refresh my memory, I'm sorry. You wanted a breakdown of,
But we come up short in our total budget by $305,000.
You know what, that could be my fault. I believe you sent me that breakdown, and I did not send it to anybody else. So I will hunt that down in my emails and send it to you with the breakdown. Is that okay?
It is, but I just had a couple of questions. You know, looking at the last months before this, we had 2 overtime accounts. 6400.03 and 6400.07 that showed payouts, but we had no budgeted amounts. One said overtime wages, one said overtime injured on duty filling. But we didn't budget any money for those 2 accounts, but we spent over $315,000.
I can't answer that because that wasn't the budget we prepared. That was the previous administration. I don't have an answer for why there was no line item. Was it for the IOD?
Well, one just says overtime wages. And now I notice we have 1 overtime account now. Previously, we had 4 overtime accounts, actually 5 overtime accounts. We had overtime wages, overtime vacation, overtime sick, overtime personal, and overtime injured on duty filling.
We are still keeping an Excel spreadsheet of all that. Beth does that with payroll. We just have not broken it down in the budget. But we do have those numbers if you want them at any time.
Well, I really believe they should be broken down in the budget, because did we budget for each one? Like I said, these 2 accounts we didn't budget 10 cents for it. We budget 0. And
Are
we
you
spent
looking at
$350,000.
last year's budget?
Yeah, he's looking at...
Yeah, the one that just ended, yes.
Yeah.
And we spent $315,000, and we didn't budget 10 cents for it.
I
Jim, I
can't
think
answer that, Jim. I
The
don't have an answer
previous
to that.
chairman had numerous line items, and it was decided at budget time this year, when we went through the budget process, we incorporated all those into one item, at .8 of overtime. But the paymaster, which would be Beth, right? She keeps a spreadsheet. So anytime you want, you can request one from her and she'll give it to you as to what the breakdown is. It was that we were having so many numbers and subcategories that it was really confusing and being a mess. And it was difficult to handle.
It was difficult to predict the breakdown of those.
How do you budget, how much money do you budget for someone IoT when you don't know that you're going to have anybody on IoT? If you're going to have 1, 5, or 25, you don't. But that leaves the
But we can't leave
administrative...
we can't leave it at zero because you know it's gonna be something there. And so we're showing 315,000 over budget just into a
But
line
you're
item.
looking at last year's budget, you're not looking at this year's budget.
Well, last year's the problem. We ran out of money.
Right.
We're in the hole.
We'll find out when we see the auditor's report.
No, I think Diane's admitted that we can't cover that 305,000 in the audit report.
The auditors that may change, and I did say that at the last meeting.
Right, but not by anywhere near that number.
I'm not sure. They may find expenses paid in May and June that are attributable to this new year. That number will change, but I don't have a prediction as to how much it will go up or down.
But I'm looking at this now is, we're looking right now as $305,000 shortfall that we're gonna have to look to cover with this budget, this new budget.
Well, we already moved money previously by resolution from different accounts to cover those losses.
No, we haven't. We have not moved anything. Our bottom line on June 30th showed in the red,
But we still moved money around to cover those
and we
expenses.
still didn't cover it.
So here's a great question. What would be the suggestion of solving this problem?
Well, there's no way to, unless we have a teacup full of tea leaves and can predict the future, that number is unknown. You can budget something for overtime, but it might be overtime for vacations. We budget for vacations because we know what those vacations are, what the cumulative number is.
Right.
Then the chief and Diane takes a certain amount of percentages for sick time, but also we don't know what we're going to get for IUDs. Some of that is covered by insurance and it's reoccurring, coming back in
Correct.
as revenue. It doesn't show it in that line item, but it shows it in revenue.
In the revenue.
Yeah, well, that offset another line item, which is just what we paid out. And that was pretty close between what we collected from VFIS and what we paid out in sick leave. It was only like a $14,000 difference, which wasn't,
That's not bad.
that's not bad, but I don't, there's $300,000 that we're that far off. That's a problem, and I think we may have to wait for the final auditor's report, but we're gonna have to really cut down and control our spending because there are some things that we may have to put off until we get the auditor's report, so we gotta balance this budget somehow. And, it's the state.
The state has suggested that for at least the next 5 years, we increase our levy by the maximum, which would be 4%, to create a reserve account because we did not have a reserve account. We didn't have a slush
Right, we didn't have a rainy day fund.
for unexpected.
But has the state stepped in and said anything about this shortfall? Have they even
No,
noticed it?
and I have filed reports with them every quarter, and they've already seen this fourth quarter report.
And they've had no comment as
No.
of yet? That it's not an issue?
Well, it will be an issue with us and,
So they were a guiding light, obviously, then.
Well, it also is summer, so just...
right. No, but,
I can call the Auditor General's office and ask them if they've had a time to review it and see how they feel, what they suggest. I have not heard from them yet, but I sent it probably 4 weeks ago.
All right, but I think this is something that we seriously gotta keep our eye on. This is,
Exactly.
it's a problem.
We can budget, take a percentage of what the maximum amount of sick leave that a firefighter can take in a year, and take a percentage and budget that much for it. Say, well, 50% of the firefighters are going to take 7 days, 40% are going to do this and that, and budget some money. But once again, you don't know. It's like the electric bill.
I don't think any district in this town has been this far off.
Well, number one, we're not for individual districts. Number two, if you want to talk about districts, in Station 4 or Cumberland Hill, we had an account that we kept on building on every year, that we kept on putting money aside. Basically, it was a contingency fund for illness. Like what the state is saying with the Diane right now, is that we should have a contingency fund, which we don't have.
Well,
We started from ground zero.
Well, no, we had a contingency, there's money in there, but it's not being, now we're gonna blow it all on this year. We're gonna take all that contingency to cover that 300,000.
So what I would suggest is looking at the end of December and looking at where we are in terms of overtime spending. And let's do a comparison with the year before, and if, you know, let's take a look, and then from December on, really keep a close eye on it. And if we have to budget more for FY19, then we're just gonna have to budget more for FY19.
And I would actually request that the auditing firm be alerted to look at those overtime numbers closely to see what we've done wrong with that number. See if they can have any input into why we're off so far with our projection.
Can I ask, do they do that normally? They're going to do that anyway, right? Or no?
They look at payroll very carefully, but more so in terms of, they compare the contract to payroll numbers. They review, they take a copy of our contract and they make sure that
Right.
what everybody's being paid actually matches up with the contract. I don't know that they will be able to offer any suggestions on how we budget for overtime, other than suggesting we budget more.
Right.
But that's that comes down to more of an operational question on how do we control overtime.
Well then, Cindy, you have additional information that we don't have yet, that they sent you?
You have to look in your email.
The only thing I want, if we can find out for the next meeting, is on line 6400.03 and 6400.07, what those numbers represented.
You're looking at last year's budget again?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. 6,400, 03 and 07?
07, what
Okay.
what we paid out of those accounts and how they were, for what reason they were paid. Because they just say overtime wages and overtime injured on duty fill-in. That one injured on duty fill-in, that's probably self-explanatory, but overtime wages, that's another high number of 165,000, with really no explanation. It's not vacation or sick or personal.
I think we should have an explanation for that.
Initially, for the fiscal 17, we projected 2 guys out injured on duty for a 52-week period. That seemed to be the historical data. Unfortunately, I had 4 guys, well, between 6 members, 4 of them were out for a 52-week period. So that automatically doubled my projection. And you know, there were two sets of 2 that were out for 26 weeks, but they just kind of fell back to each other. So it meant 52 weeks of overtime. So, you know, when you have 12 people on shift, you're missing 1 from each shift. When you have 4 out, that's an automatic overtime on each shift, and that becomes, you know, $1,000 a day for the 24-hour shift to replace them. VFIS replaces at the normal, the 42-hour salary. It doesn't replace at the time and a half salary. So even though we're getting some back, we're not getting the overtime rate back. We're just getting 80% of the regular salary back.
For the guy that's out, and the overtime that's on us. That's a whole separate line item.
I would love not to have anybody injured.
Well,
it's one of those things. Historically looking back, 2 seemed to be the number for a 52-week period, and we've just had some unfortunate incidents, and doctors now are more skeptical to send employees back to work in a rapid fashion than it seemed like they were 5 or 10 years ago. It's just...
And then at some point, maybe we'll have to look into a third party to follow up on these injury cases. I know in Valley Falls at one point, we did hire a third party to check with the doctors and do the follow-up then, because a district, it was very tough to do in a small district, and we did that for about a year or two in Valley Falls, because we had a rash of long-term injuries, so.
One district, they retained some.
All right, so you just get a little bit more information for next meeting, and just so we can get a better feeling where we're at with this issue.
So you have that.
Okay.
Check your email.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Chief's report.
No, you were, oh, I'm sorry.
There's not been one.
We don't have to have a motion to accept.
Go accept the report, not approve it, accept it.
Well, you can.
All right, sure. Is there a motion to accept Diane's report?
Motion.
Motion to accept by Commissioner Scullin. Is there a second?
Make a second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. All right, Chief.
During the month of July, we ended up with 424 responses. Again, 68% is rescue and EMS related, which seems to be a consistent number throughout the year. On the report, you'll see a citizen's complaint. That was one of the chimneys in town where the smoke was blowing into the neighbor, and they were asked to put it out, which they did. And I don't see anything else of really any abnormal labeling. So, unless someone has a specific question. We did a lot of, even though it hasn't been a hot, dry, humid summer, we have had quite a few dehydration cases towards the tail end of July, which was unusual because July really wasn't a hot, humid month like we've experienced in the past, but it happened and it had to be taken care of. So. Also, in my report this evening is kind of a chronological breakdown of how things are not transpiring in the manner that I was hoping for with the state property that surrounds Station 2 at 1530 Mendon Road. Initially, it was said that the state would be able to do a gratis donation to the fire district for the 15,000 square feet parcel that we were looking for. Through emails, as indicated here, and conversations with Mr. Jackson, meeting with field representatives from the Department of Transportation, they all agreed that it was a viable project and that they would support it, but they didn't have the authorization to transfer the property. The final authorization would come with Director Alviti. We had, some more conversations, and then in May I received a communication from Ms. Hollins indicating that the Department of Transportation wanted $85,740, or it equates to $6 a square foot for the parcel. That was unacceptable to me. I contacted Mr. Jackson to see what could be done. He indicated that if we had a follow-up appraisal, they might consider it. I met with a local real estate agent that I was hoping would be able to do an appraisal on the property, and they weren't willing to put their time in it should it go to a legality battle, and they would have to be testifying. So they gave me a rough idea of what they thought, but they wouldn't put it in writing. Mid-July, I received a call from Representative McLaughlin, who had arranged a meeting with Director Alviti from the Rhode Island Department of Transportation on August 4th. He asked me to attend the meeting. It wasn't just solely for me, it had to do with the 295 project and the Howard Road Bridge. So the mayor, deputy police chief, Senator McLaughlin, Mr. Anderson from the planning department, chief of staff Stansfield, and Senator Pearson via conference call were all at the meeting for this discussion, at which time Director Alviti asked for all the information that I had on the parcel to state my case, which I gave to one of his engineers, and he indicated he would have to go to the Director of Administration, Mr. DiBiase. On August 9th, I was forwarded an email from Senator Pearson from Director DiBiase stating that they would hold at the fair market value of $6 a square foot, further indicating that they had just done a similar transaction in the town of Smithfield at the corner of 116 and 7, and the selling price was $524,000. So immediately it kind of piqued my interest how at $6 a square foot you could sell 3 acres for that. When I did the math, it came down to 116 and 7 sold for $4 an acre. I had contacted Chief of Staff Stansfield, who indicated 2 people that the town had worked with as appraisers. Jonathan Stevens, the planning director for the town, indicated that Mr. Peter Scotti would be better suited because he was currently doing work and he was in town already. I've contacted Mr. Scotti, gave him the rundown, gave him the background information. On August 18th, he was at the site reviewing it, taking notes, and indicated that he hoped to have some type of a formal proposal that we could take, and he would assist us with the Department of Administration, hopefully before the end of the month. So, I cannot justify spending $6 a square foot for the parcel that has to be filled in greatly. I would just as soon redirect and put the money in an elevator and put a second floor on rather than spend $85,000 for something that we're going to have to fill with about 5,000 yards of fill, and also protect because the runoff swale they will not deed to us, so we're going to have to protect our property from further erosion in the runoff swale. So it's going to take some engineering and some DEM approval, which can get costly. So I'm waiting to see what Mr. Scotti has for a suggestion, and I will report that to the board as soon as we get it. But to say I'm disheartened would be putting it correctly. I further learned from Mr. Stevens that the town has filed an application to have from 116 into Berkeley Village incorporated into the National Heritage Corridor, with the Lonsdale Mill, which is the current rescue headquarters, being one of the original Lonsdale Mill buildings. They want to make that whole area a historic district and hopefully get federal funding to do some improvements to tell the story of the turn of the century mills in that area. With that designation, it becomes even more skeptical that anybody would be able to build on that property, because there is currently no zoning. And, you know, this, if I'm misspeaking, Ms. Morris, interrupt me, I know it's your field, but with no zoning on the property, they would have to go to planning to petition their case, zoning to get approval, and then it being a historic district would have to go to the Historical Society to get authorization to do construction. And being that close to 116, they would also need another curb cut to have access to a main highway, which seems to be a lot of obstacles to overcome for a parcel that you could probably only build 75 feet wide on. So all of those things are factoring into Mr. Scotty's surveillance of the property, and hopefully he can help us come to a resolution that's economically feasible. I think we're going to have to spend some money because of the federal highway rules that they obtained that property from originally. I can't justify spending $85,000 for it.
Chief, thank you so very much for a thorough list of everything that's happened. I know that you've been working really hard on this and was very enthusiastic about the project originating there, and hopeful that we would be able to acquire that land for a minimal fee, but it doesn't look like that's happening. And it is disappointing. But it sounds like you have a plan B.
And hopefully we can make it come together.
Right.
So.
Thank you so very much.
I'd like, I would really like to get moving on getting a footprint together so that, you know, I'm not sure how the building will fare another winter. And I would hate to have a catastrophic failure and then have to do something really outside the box. And Mr. Archambault and Mr. Jones were with us when we looked at National Grid, and they wanted $6.50 a square foot for a lease, and we had to do all the improvements. I mean,
right.
that monetarily is not feasible for us at all. So this is a much better option if we can stay there. It's just a matter of what footprint we're going to be on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, keep us posted. Thank you. Commissioner Jones.
Just a question. I don't know if you have the answer now, Chief, but if we per se scrapped the idea of the state land, and Mr. Aronian gave us a very ballpark per foot on a single-story building. So if you factor out the purchase of the land and factor in a second floor, could we get a new per square foot figure on a second floor footprint for the original footprint of going upstairs for admin and fire marshal or whatever we had mentioned that would be at the headquarters?
I will check with him. I didn't ask him that question yet because second floor was really never in my forefront. Right. But obviously it's becoming a reality, so I will get a ballpark number from him on a two-story building. So also conforming to historical district overlays.
Right.
Yeah, you know, we can talk about that separately.
Yeah.
I'm not as worried about that as it seems.
Because we're there.
Right.
Chief, when you speak with him, is he going to be able to determine if that building as it stands be able to hold the second floor?
No, that building won't be able to hold the second.
Which building?
Station 2?
No.
No. Station 2 is going to come down. It's economically unfeasible to do any repairs to it. It's just too far gone. And the problem with a steel building is as soon as you put anything on it right now, you have to have it re-engineered to today's standards.
Correct.
And in 1970, they didn't have the shear test, the wind speed test, snow load test that they have to endure today. So trying to get that current building to meet today's standards would be more costly because you'd have to take it apart to reinforce it, to rebuild it, and it's just going to go out of budget.
What you're saying is, I missed the boat here, talking about getting a price of knocking that building down, building a two-story building.
Correct. Originally, we were just going on a one-story slab building so that we wouldn't have any ADA issues, we wouldn't have any visitor issues. The worst-case scenario would be that if we can't realistically come to a negotiated price with the state and we had to do a second floor on the current footprint, we would have to add an elevator and accessibility for handicap, which would change the first floor footprint a little bit.
Okay.
The first floor would be for apparatus and administrative offices where the public would have access, correct? That's like the preliminary thought?
That's up in the air right now.
Right.
The most public contact is the fire prevention and tax office. So that would be the predominant offices that we would want on grade level.
Well, the only thing I can, Dana, to answer your question is when we put the second floor in the police station, it was mandated by the state that the chief of police's office had to be on the first floor. That's only, and we couldn't say, because ADA, to say, well, the chief's office is on the second floor, but we'll go get the chief and he'll come down to see you because you're in a wheelchair. We couldn't, the state wouldn't allow that. The state says, no, the chief of police has to be on the first floor. So we might, that's the chief's point, I think, is an elevator, because there's no matter, there's like enough space to put a tax collector, a business manager on the first floor. The chief's office would end up on the second floor, and fire marshals, you still have to have that expense of a elevator. The ADA.
The other way around that is if you had a conference room that you met everybody in the same conference room. And the thing with having the accessibility for the chief is that you don't make special privileges for those that couldn't ascend a stairway to your office. So if you held all meetings in a determined room, then they're not being signaled out because of the issue. So that would be one area of possibility. But
you also have a new public safety building that's going to have a conference room that you can call your meetings in.
That's true.
You're going to have a brand new building, so it's kind of crazy to waste that kind of space.
Yeah.
It's another thought.
Good point. Any further discussion? Motion to accept the chief's report.
Motion.
Commissioner Champagne motion and Commissioner Hogan seconds. All in favor of accepting his report? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Report passes 6-0. All right, last item on the agenda is the, second last item on the agenda is the resolution, Fire Committee Resolution 2017-24, authorizing the Finance Director to abate $3,682.44 for the months of June and July of 2017. And there are a number of abatements totaling that sum of money. I will not read them all because there are a variety of reasons. So I would like to move to the final statement. The Finance Director is authorized to abate as shown above. Is there a motion on the table? Motion to approve by Commissioner Champagne.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Scullin. All in favor of accepting the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes 6-0. Is there any public comment?
One more thing, Madam Chair, on September 20th, which is going to be the day after our next meeting, Cumberland Fire Department is offering a flu clinic at Station 2 for all members, commissioners, and family. If you wish to attend, it will be from like 4 in the afternoon till 8 in the evening, and it's a no-charge clinic, and it's something that Rite Aid is doing as a public service for us.
And that is September what?
20th.
September 20th. And also, we have a Touch a Truck coming up on the 27th of August.
This Sunday, it's the annual Touch a Truck event. It's getting a lot of publicity, a lot of play. They certainly have worked hard to get the attendees that they have, considering they're competing with an antique truck show in Cranston on the same day. But they have a lot of good commitments, so hopefully the weather holds out, as the forecast right now is showing that it should, and we have another successful day with it.
Very good. And is there something in the air about having a welcome new truck day? The ladder truck will use that Touch truck to launch it.
Yes, I really would like to be able to tell what day that's going to be, but there's contingencies outside of my control right now. One will be getting it leaded on Thursday. Then I'll be able to get an appointment with the Department of Health to get a license for it to be a responding EMS providing apparatus. The factory rep will be out next Tuesday and Wednesday, the 29th and 30th, for factory training on the apparatus. And the tank and pump is frustrating. The first drawings came back that were unacceptable. I canceled them out. I sent the first dealer back to try to redo them with something I wanted, and I contacted a second dealer to get a competing price. And hopefully I have some indication of where we're going with the tank and pump this week.
All right, great. Well, even if it's not ready until Fire Prevention Week, that would be a nice time to have an open house and show off the truck.
Okay.
All right.
I got to check with some of the pizza restaurants are, they might be amenable to providing pizzas for an open house, so that'll be something the Public Education Committee from the department can work on, and I can report back at the next meeting on that.
Check with the NFPA and Domino's. They team up, and there was a date, and I don't have it committed in my head, that you could apply for it, and Domino's would supply the pizza.
Okay.
So the NFPA would have that. And we may have, maybe like August 29th might be the last day. Public comment? All right. Motion to adjourn by Commissioner Scullin.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Archibald. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? This meeting is hereby adjourned.